Boom. Alright, massive legends. I hope this finds you phenomenal. So get this, right? Imagine if I was to tell you, you remember those events in New York and Washington 20 odd years ago, wasn't it? You know, brought the world to a standstill. An elitist, or at least in their minds, cabal, that single-handedly infiltrated the whole of the US defense, intelligence and military apparatus to cause utter devastation in a major American city, off the back of which they then illegally invaded two sovereign nations at the expense of millions, or a million lives, not least of which that nice Mr. Dr. David Kelly, plus countless servicemen and innocent civilians. Imagine if I was to tell you that Keir Starmer's government has just handed over the management of the UK Army, Air Force, Navy, Royal Marines and Special Forces to, oh yeah, those fuckers. You probably say what Dave would say. Let's go and see Dave.
I'm going to say something that I'm not allowed to say. But I got to be real. I don't believe these motherfuckers.
I do not believe. So, fucking hell, let's get into it. Hello friends, how we doing? I'm Chris Thrall. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando, and these days I spend my time enlightening people as to their true potential, and also as to the shenanigans conducted by something that's become known as the New World Order. Cabal. I call it the merchants, because if you track back through history, right back to the slave trade, to the money magicians in ancient Babylon, they was all merchants, i.e. people that don't want to do a day's work, liars, gaslighting, vagabonding, cheaters, and they've remained so to this day. And someone needs to call them out, and I'm quite glad that now they're massively getting called out. In fact, a certain president today told them to shove their medical agenda right up their usury backsides, didn't he? I don't know if you caught that. I will do a separate stream on that tomorrow. That is massive, and I'm not being all like white hat Q. Nothing to do with that, folks. I got my, got certain views on the president, bailed out by the Rothschilds. But what I will say is, when we finally crack their medical BS and people realise that you and you only are responsible for your well-being, not other people, and that you never ever mess with your divine temple, call it what you will, then we got this lot on the run, haven't we? On the run. So, before I come on to this absolute mentalness, can I just ask you good people to like and subscribe? that will not only be very kind, but it will acknowledge that I got up at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock this morning. I was out for my run, training for my Mount Everest summit in April. Got to the computer by 6:30, 6:45 to start work. And then at 2 o'clock, from 7 till 2, what's that? 7 hours I sat just doing this video, folks. And then I thought, I got to drag myself away. I was too tired to go live with it. To say I don't get paid for this would be an understatement. And it would just be nice, folks, if you could acknowledge that some of us are fighting for the next generation, while the 99% just stay ambivalent or asleep, and support the channel. It's £1.99 a month, folks. Not asking you for £199 a month like some channels. Just £1.99 helps keep the wolf from the door. You can do it on Locals, Patreon, or become a YouTube member just by clicking the link below this video. And guess what? The more you give out, the more you get back. That's one of the laws of enlightenment, isn't it? So you can't lose. Thank you. Right, in no particular order, I got loads of tabs up today. I'll try and get through them as quick as I can. I just start looking at one thing, folks, and it's the proverbial rabbit hole. Don't read too much into whatever thumbnail I choose or whatever title. I cover a whole range of stuff on this channel. The main thing is, let's get ourselves enlightened, because this lot, that's like the opposite of what they want, isn't it? So let me just sort out the chat. There we go. Are we in the chat? Yes, we are. So in no particular order, this is during the president's visit. The UK government signs $1 billion AI military deal with Palantir. So this is Peter Thiel, isn't he? Who's hobnobbing with all the technocrats as they become, to bring around their technocratic, messianic new world order, as it's been referred to. And during President's visit to the UK, Britain signed a $1 billion 5-year defence software deal with dominant AI player Palantir, the strategic partnership in which the AI platform will manage all the country's armed forces. Also promises that the company will base its European defence HQ in London. So all of the electronic infrastructure, AI infrastructure of Europe will be based in London. The stated aim is speed, interoperability, and an end to the patchwork of legacy systems, so existing systems across our armed forces. But concentrating strategic risk in a single foreign vendor whose recent public partnerships include Israel's Ministry of Defense and frontline Ukraine deployments comes with great risk too. Palantir publicly announced a strategic partnership with Israel's MOD to supply technology to help the country's war effort. Despite criticism from human rights groups given the civilian harm in Gaza. Ukraine has been a showcase for Palantir's AI-enabled targeting and evidence workflows. Supporters celebrate its precision. Critics oppose embedding a private vendor in lethal decision chaos. So we're going to come on and just break this down. But first of all, who do we think owns or has got the largest stake in Palantir. It's going to be two companies, isn't it? And they're going to be, let me guess. Is it going to be Burton's and C&A? No, it's not, is it? It's going to be Vanguard and BlackRock. Almost 10%, almost 10% for Blackguard and 8% for BlackRock. AKA, is that not a controlling share? Now let's break this down before people say, "Oh, Chris, you're overreacting. It's you've got to upgrade the infrastructure and this is just to say." You've given control of all things AI, the coordinated running across the board of the British military, not only through the back door without any mention to the British public whatsoever, but you've handed it to the exact same cabal that was behind those aforementioned events where structures at times miraculously dropped out the sky on thousands of people's heads. And not only that, when you look at the way the world is run, that the merchants have their Kabbalists in every single position of power and influence, and even have units of influence like the nudge unit, then the Fabian Society, to give it a further nudge in the right direction. When you factor in that they decide every war, just like they did in Ukraine with Kolomoisky bringing Zelensky to power. Kolomoisky, if you're not aware, big global mafia, folks. It's actually in prison at the moment. Let's save that for another day. So you've given the exact control of our military to the people who decide what the wars are going to be, as we saw 20 years ago, and then we're involved in 20 years of conflict, who also decide when to pull the plug, don't they? Hence, we went into Afghanistan because they had terrorist training farms there. And what did we do? We up and left those exact same, albeit fictitious entities, with all the military weaponry and might that they could ever have dreamt of in their wild dreams, now all in the hands of the Taliban, whilst securing the opium fields, because Cabal was always run on gold, oil and drugs, and securing the lithium. So you make of it out what you will. These wonderful people, the Project for the New American Century, all got your these lot. You can tell by the sincere look in their eyes, folks, that they've got your best interests at heart. Absolutely. Old Lucky Larry. That should be our mantra for the pot. Lucky Larry loves you, doesn't he? Poor old Larry, wasn't it awful? Every single day of his working career since he took the lease on certain skyscrapers in a certain city in America, the one day where they came to a catastrophic end, he had a dermatologist appointment that his wife had made. He must be feeling survivor's guilt, mustn't he, a poor chap. You know, I don't even think the $6 billion that he claimed on his insurance is going to, ease that guilt, is it? Poor little lad. And doesn't it remind you of the Terminator? You know that thing about Cabal always like to put stuff in plain sight, don't they? Always like to tell you what they're doing. I think Idiocracy was probably the best example of that. Gatorade is good for crops. It wasn't Gatorade. Somebody put it in the comments what it actually was. I can never remember the name of it, but it made me chuckle. But you remember the plot of Terminator was this Skynet, wasn't it? It was AI. The machines had got out of control and they'd learned how to program their own intelligence and take over humanity. It was all living in the dark. Anyway, moving swiftly on, someone asked me to cover the letter that Albert Pike allegedly wrote to Giuseppe Manzini. Albert Pike obviously being a famous 33rd degree Mason, and Giuseppe Manzini said to be at that time the head of the Bavarian Illuminati. And in this letter, he was said to say that the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. And that all nations will be drawn into it to destroy themselves. Off the back of it, everyone will become, nihilists and atheists because they're fed up that their Jesus hasn't saved them. And as a result, and it says down here, they will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, which is, this is where it gets confusing, is said to be the true God of Freemasonry, which you don't get to know until you get to the 33rd degree and above. I don't know how much of this is genuine, folks, but I just thought I'd show you some stuff that I've come up with over the years, because it does get fascinating. So Lucifer was the fallen angel, wasn't he? Remember, scripture is allegory, folks. We're going to be talking a lot about this. This is your way out. This is your golden ticket for all this nonsense. What I had someone saying to me today in the comments, didn't I? Chris, they're chasing me down the street calling me Packy. What do? I want to bottle them. That ain't going to end very well. Fact, what would Dave say? What would this chap say?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I apologise to whoever let that comment. That was really not aimed at you. I just wanted to play that clip. No, my point is, you can keep doing things your way, which is led by your ego self, and see how that works out for you. I can promise you, as someone that's been chronically addicted to crystal meth and mentally unwell and homeless on the streets of Hong Kong, it doesn't end very well, these ego decisions. Or you can do what the rest of us has done, which is tune in to your divine self and, get over the fact that you don't know everything, you can't control everything, and sometimes the best outcome is when you relinquish this control to a higher power, aka universal energy. And here's the thing. By doing so, by doing 3 simple things that anybody can do, leave the past behind, doesn't exist, be grateful, take action. I literally can start that now by 6:15 if you're in the UK. You cracked it. You're on the path to, literally on the path to enlightenment. Will you do it? Probably not, because people only usually act out of desperateness when life becomes so physically uncomfortable to bear. They're forced into a corner that it actually becomes easier to change than it does to stay the same way. That's why the enlightenment path isn't for everybody, but I'm just saying it is there for everybody who chooses to do so. I am going to be talking more about that. So we got this letter, and just to show you all this Luciferian doctrine, they take it quite seriously, folks. You know, I'm always saying they own Hollywood. Hollywood was formed by Cabalists, not least of which the pornographers that were kicked out of Germany by a certain Austrian painter, and the same pornographers from their Nickelodeon cinemas where you could pay a nickel and watch some smut, kicked out of New York, came under competition for their equipment from Kodak and Edison, and they all said, right, let's take our magic and we'll go out west. We'll form our own place. We'll call it Hollywood. It will be the brainwashing center of the planet. So you got UK is their money lending center through their debt-based slavery system. That's London. Then you got Vatican in Rome. That's their religious indoctrination to keep everybody in their rightful place. And then you've got the military industrial complex based out of Washington. All gets clever. And out of the Hollywood comes like the bit of kind of glue to glue it all together, because they have to stitch the narrative together. Hollywood's job is to tell you that soldiers are heroes, right? Anyone who served will agree with me. Literally like the last thing we were. We were young men that needed a job. Some of us had set our sights on it for years because our parent may have served. Others, I'd say we did it because we didn't have anything else to do, and it seemed appealing, and it seemed like we could, maybe get a bit of esteem coming from damaged childhoods. But Hollywood's job? No, war is heroic, isn't it? And how dare you say anything against it? Are you against the veterans? Do you see how it works? Always the same, isn't it? In the music industry, the same. Music industry just designed to tell you you're a loser in love and no one's going to lose you. You know, she's left me again, la la la. He doesn't love me, la la la. They never sing a song, do they? Well, they did. It was actually called the dance era, where they actually started putting songs together, these independent DJs, and they called it house. And it started in a club in Chicago where the black kids and the white kids came together for the love of dance. And it was beautiful piano riffs put together by sensuous black vocals. The most amazing music ever, because it came from the soul. And it was talking about one love, one spirit, kindness, peace, empathy, one world. You know, let's raise the vibration together. And what do? They shut all the clubs. They banned, the drugs around it, etc., etc. And then we went back to she left me on a Tuesday and thought I was a loser on a Friday. They're clever. But just to show you how they like to put their stamp on it, has anyone seen the film Paddington? Oh, Chris, that's just a kid's film. Yeah, you can believe that. But the more astute amongst you will see, this is the scene, isn't it, from St. Paul's Cathedral.
Attention all units, an unusually attractive nun is called...
Did you clock it? The fallen angel, their Lucifer. Yes, they think you're too dumb to put this together, folks. So prove them wrong, prove them wrong. So Lucifer is the morning star, also known as Venus. Here's the Roman, I believe this is the Roman depiction of Venus. And can you see the shell? We're going to come on to the shell and how this features in Masonry. And then the ancient Babylonians and the Syrians referred to the star as Ishtar. And this is a clever, for all you people on your spiritual awakening, on your allegorical journey, you'll see this isn't just a statue with some funny animals and that kind of thing in it. This is allegory, folks. So you've got female, so this will, I'm guessing, represents feminine energy. You'll see she's got the feet of a bird. Bird in allegory, in code, in the code that's encoded through the centuries for you and me to discover that you can start doing tonight. If you're that person getting chased down the street, getting called racist slurs, you can do this tonight to save yourself, and you can be in paradise tomorrow morning, not giving a shit about any of this crap. You'll work out that them feet, birds, mean enlightened thought. Further represented by the wings, isn't it? The angelic wings. Wings represent angels, angles of light, photons, energy, information packages from source. When you see an angel in scripture, you're not actually seeing a funny little fat baby with wings on, are you? It's talking about when you have your epiphany from your epiphanous gland, which is your pineal gland. So there's a lot more going on in this ancient Syrian or Babylonian depiction than even historians can understand. Is it not mad that a thick ex-Marine gets all this, and I've worked it all out, and yet they argue, Graham Hancock and all his mates, they'll be arguing over this. They'll be like, well, she's got, feet of a bird because they saw her as the bird god. Yes, the bird god. Let's write a paper on bird gods and let's get the big club to, to sign that paper off, and we'll go with she's a bird. She's a bird god. Is she hell? This is all symbolic. Bird means enlightened thoughts. Wings means epiphany. The enlightened one, you can say. We're going to come on and look at this. The same symbology on a bottle of Tabasco sauce. Who gets to the heads of industry, particularly in America? You have to belong to a certain fraternity, don't you? Owls. What do we think the owls represent? Owls have long since been depicted, haven't they, in this kind of symbology. I'd say it's something like enlightened thought again, intelligent thought. It might be a reference to the owl can see in the dark, so seeing through the quagmire to the light at the other side. The lions, her feet are always, Ishtar's feet are always on a lion. And lion is a beast, isn't it? And what does a beast represent in symbology? It represents the ego. So this is a character, not a real one, but it's telling you if you get on top of your ego and keep it at bay, you will see through the darkness like the wise old owl, and you will connect to the divine through your pineal gland, and thus you will ascend to paradise on earth, aka heaven. All those poor people going to church thinking that heaven's a place that you can only get to when you're dead, and they're shitting themselves their whole life because when they was 12 they nicked a Mars bar from the co-op. Little do they know, the paradise is here on earth. JC, what did he say? The only way, to my Father's kingdom is through me. And he meant that you repeat that. So when I say it, the only way to paradise is through me. I get it now. So clever, isn't it? All allegory. Right, what we got next? Yes, coming on. This woman, I was going to say this young woman, but she's not this young anymore. This is when she was Miss Arizona. She's doing the rounds. We covered this a bit yesterday. I'm not going to get too much into it. But why is it whenever you have these mass events, whether they be some sort of, atrocity type thing or what we saw the other day, why is there such bizarreness around it? Why immediately it happens does stuff just stop making sense? And why is it that the main protagonists, they're not just normal people like me or you, are they?
Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man.
I can't play any more of that, folks. It gives me the... You got to make of that what you will. And I'll just say off the bat, if you think that I'm making light of anything, you completely get it wrong. I just say that, I think we need to raise our game a bit here and see when we're all being played. I think the black and the white is a slight clue. You dig a bit deeper and you come across the mother. Now the mother, yes, Laurie Frantsev. I can't pronounce that. Like I say, can't just be like a plumber or a cleaner or, work up at the Asda on the, behind the pizza counter, can they? No, this mother is, is a specialist in security and technology, the director of AZ Tech International, chairman and CEO, specializing in protective services and network security. Founder chairperson of G-Tech Global Technology, involved in EMP, electromagnetic pulse, protection and defense tech. Do you remember that EMP where they used that? Used it in New Zealand, didn't they? During the scam for the protesters. Not a lot adding up there. A lot of people are just calling it a Masonic operation. And see what the president's got to say.
Eric, I got to know him very well and saw immediately that Charlie was actually a master builder of people.
Knowing a connection to Masonry of master builder is like literally the last... Would that not be the last description you'd use of someone, knowing that the turmoil it would cause? I'm going to whip through this because we covered it yesterday. Vance said people who celebrated this person's, let's just call it a loss, should lose their jobs. While Rubio and Pete Hegseth, both, I believe, massive Zionists, issued penalties for foreign nationals and US troops who did the same. What I'm trying to get to here, folks, is all about division, is it not? This is a massively overhyped incident, albeit tragic. But I don't know about you. I literally didn't know who this guy was until I saw this in the media. And also, there's a bit of my brain, I'm wondering if I've gone a bit mental and I'm just imagining all this, and that he come, maybe I'm watching like a TV program or something. I don't watch TV, so maybe that's why I'd never heard of the guy. But we looked at Jimmy Kimmel. He got suspended, didn't he? Jimmy, who's his show's based here in a Masonic temple. Jimmy, who's gone through the ritual. Jimmy, who's letting you know who he does his acting for. Same as this chap we covered, didn't we? We looked at this ever so bizarre, what can only be described as a grooming advert for Tango. So Tango, orange tang, what they drank on the Apollo moon, whatever you call call it, an expedition. It sounds like they actually went somewhere, doesn't it? You get what I'm saying. But look at the symbology that's going on. You've got these aging guys that all look like pedos. And do I need to say any more? So they had his number from a very young age, didn't they? People have cottoned onto this on Twitter also. I think her father has direct ties to Raytheon. Again, he couldn't just be a plumber, could he? Couldn't just be a plumber. Folks, just to say, we've got loads of people watching. Could we please get some likes and subscribes? That'd be absolutely awesome. Look, I'll even press the little likey, subscribey thing. If you could do that, that would be brilliant. Moving on. So, yes, I was diving into a bit of Freemasonry, as I have over the years. And I'll just show you some of the things that I've come up with. If you're watching and you're a Mason, it's not something I would do for lots of reasons I won't go into. Am I accusing you of being in a global conspiracy? No, of course I'm not. I very much doubt you would probably be involved in any of this. That's not to say that, that's not to say that I think it's all good, but there is definitely something going on here, isn't it? And I was looking up the beehive. The beehive is a symbol of industry, unity, and collective purpose in Freemasonry. And the reason I looked that up is if you watch The Truman Show, and when I said earlier, this feels like bizarre, this feels like everyone's in on something and I'm not in because this Charlie Kirk thing, never heard of the guy. Or maybe I did, but I wasn't focused on it, so I didn't remember. But I felt like I was in The Truman Show. So I looked a little bit into The Truman Show, and there he is looking in the mirror, not knowing he's staring straight into the camera of the audience. And what's on his shelf in the bathroom? He's got a beehive. Very randomly bizarre thing to have, isn't it? And then further on in the film, you got this chap, Christoph, who's, what's he like, the director who came up with this idea to have Truman, all the eyes of the world on Truman. Truman's in a movie and he doesn't even realise it if you haven't seen. And what's the window that he sat in front of? It's the window in the moon, isn't it, in the Truman Show? I think the fake moon where Truman lives is all part of a sort of constructed scenario. There he is in the moon. He's sat by this window. Why did I ping that window straight away? Well, because it's the Masonic window, isn't it? This one is called the half arch window, obviously symbolic of the brickwork in Freemasonry and arches, but also of the rising sun symbolism. there it is. I think this is an actual Masonic hall in Scotland. And there's one in Tanzania, of all places. I wonder if John St. Julian's going to this one. That's a joke, folks. I can categorically tell you John would not be involved in Freemasonry. Very, very lovely lovely man, but he is based in Tanzania. Why does this get interesting? Well, do you remember that event where things went bang, 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 bang in a certain city in America where people like to, squander a lot of money on the tables and things? Well, you might remember this guy. He was the brother of the shooter, wasn't he? And a couple of interesting things in this scenario. First of all, look what's right behind him during his TV interviews. It's the Masonic window. There's a lot of this architecture in America. America was founded on Freemasonry. Certainly Washington was. And Utah as well. In fact, Freemasonry was a founding part of the Mormon Church, from what I understand. But also, you might see here, that number, look, 320. So in numerology, that could be argued to be 32. Gets interesting because his brother, when he went mad and went pop, 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 he did it from the 32nd floor. So it's interesting. Hang on a sec. Have I got it here? I normally show the fire truck that they had on the news all day during that event, and the fire truck number 33. Quite interesting, the number 32 number, isn't it? 32 in some lodges is the highest that you can attain. But I can't help but think that there's something going on there. If he's living at 320, his brother shoots from the 32nd floor. This was an article that was done on that day. As the SEC Insider Transaction reports below, from the days leading up to this event, those days there, approximately 6 million shares of MGM owns the Mandalay Bay Hotel, were sold. Most of the men who sold their stock before the shooting decided to sell when the shares were valued at $33.33. Honestly, guys, I haven't got anything against Freemasons, but wouldn't even Freemasons want to question this? Bizarre, isn't it? Bizarre. Here's a little search I did on it. So 64-year-old Stephen opened fire. Here's where it gets even more interesting. It was open fire on a music festival from his 32nd floor window. And literally 3 days before, Boris decided to recite a poem in Burma. And what poem did he recite?
Boris Johnson is being chaperoned by the British ambassador.
This is the biggest bell. Yeah, that's right. It's enormous. 42 tons.
Yeah, this is the second largest trade in our country.
I'll cut to the chase. He recited the Road to Mandalay, at which point the British ambassador went, Boris, not appropriate. In fact, you can see it here.
So probably not. What, the Road to Mandalay? Yeah, not appropriate.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson is being chaperoned by the British
how can you not think you're in the I'm in the Truman Show? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. That brings me on to this book, which I read quite a while ago by Robert Shear and Robert Anton Wilson. It's called the Illuminatus Trilogy, and it's by someone that's clearly studied the occult, the hidden knowledge, the Bavarian Illuminati, etc., etc. And it's quite interesting that in this book, the Illuminatus Trilogy, it's a Discordian conspiracy theory novel with several themes in common with the show. The number 23 is also heavily involved in the trilogy. Do you remember Jim Carrey did that film called The Number 23, where he just kept seeing the number 23 everywhere? It's the same with this book. It is interesting the number 23 is 32 backwards, but it does state that with reference to this book, they couldn't really find any reference to that number in esoterics, the occult, or Freemasonry, or whatever. I think he was just pointing out the importance of symbology to certain groups. But also, towards the end of the novel, the Pentagon is partly destroyed. And one of the many intertwined plots is about a synthesized virus. You can't actually synthesize something, folks, unless it exists, if you get what I'm saying. So please don't be buying into this thing. What you can get is poison, like nerve agent, etc., etc., as anyone who's been in the military well knows. That was what our nuclear, biological and chemical warfare training was for, wasn't it? Well, we had to wear them big, thick suits on exercise and a respirator. You can have stuff flicked at you, sprayed at you, aerosoled at you, dropped on you, etc., etc. But I thought that was interesting. But when I read the book, what I really found interesting was there's part of the book where the Nazis, as he calls them, attack a music festival at the side of a lake in Germany, and everyone goes wild and people drown and die and this kind of thing. And then when the detective comes in to investigate it, he goes to a hotel and mysteriously finds 23 hang on, just bear with me a second. Anyway, it's 23 dead men in the suite. Guess which small country they came from? They were all aging Israelis. And the theory is they came for the anniversary of the Bavarian Illuminati. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, I'm just telling you, isn't it bizarre that these three things, the illness, the music event, and the Pentagon, were in a book that was written that long ago? Makes me feel even more mental. Moving on, I was looking at this chap earlier. I genuinely think, I don't think this guy is heading the New World Order, folks, for all you conspiracy theorists. I do think that probably a lot of people haven't felt that important in their life. And when the opportunity comes to join a funny handshake gang, affects the ego, doesn't it? Appeals to the ego. And I think a lot of that is what it is. It appeals a lot to ex-forces. There's actually veterans lodges all over the country. You can join, the Navy Lodge, or, this lodge or that lodge. And there was a certain Austrian painter, wasn't there, that I think he shut down 2 of the 3 lodges in Germany before the war because he recognised that that was how the Cabal were controlling people, primarily through the trade unions, through all those men that were in trades, men, women. Back then it was more men, wasn't it? Women were more housewives back in the 30s, 40s. And then he recognised that if you weren't in that kind of trade, that you'd be in a trade union, maybe you was a hairstylist or a barber, that you'd join the Masons. And of course, both had been infiltrated by the big club. And a certain chap recognised this, didn't he? So I do think you get vulnerable when you get a carrot dangled in front of you. And if you jump through this hoop, you're going to get to this. And then you jump through that hoop, you're going to get to the... I think it's quite a good selection process, isn't it? To find out who's willing to go all the way. But I was looking at the colour on this guy. And a few things came to mind. First of all, same colour, isn't it, as the gold and the blue. Same colour as the Rothschild's coat of arms, with the red shield, the Rothschilder, in the middle. Red said to be the colour of the Canaanites. There you go. Something to do with seashells or some such bloody thing, or I might have just totally made that up. But, you know, this is historic. These are bloodlines. Their stuff goes back ages. This is the Sassoons, the opium family that made their huge amounts of money dealing opium to the Chinese, even though the Chinese government didn't want it. Look, they've even got the poppy on their coat of arms. And the reason I was looking at this, I was wondering if there's any relevance of these colours. Well, because you saw this, didn't you, during the old scam? You saw these colours a lot. Also, a certain country engaged in warfare at the moment. Just a question, folks. I'm not trying to suggest anything. These are the kind of questions I like to ask. I was looking at the Russell family. Do you remember at the beginning I said Venus? Venus is Lucifer, who's said to be the true god of the high up Masons, not the porch Masons like the street level ones, but the high up Freemasonry. And I just thought this was interesting. This is the Russell family. Anyone who comes from my neck of the woods knows that the Duke of Bedford, who's a Russell, very important man in Tavistock, isn't he? The market town in Devon of Tavistock. In fact, the main square is called Bedford Square. Well, the Duke of Bedford was from the Russell family. The Russell family is said to be one of the 13 black nobility bloodlines. I think I've got that right, or at least the bloodlines of the Illuminati as announced by Fritz Springmeier, who did a lot of work in that area. Anyway, the reason I flagged this up is I just find it interesting that their shield, look, it's got the shells on it. The shells, dun dun dun. Hang on. Look. Sorry, my tabs are crashing. 1 second. Click to expand. There you go. Shells have long been symbolic through history, particularly the scallop shell. As Freemasons, let us remember that we start out as bronze, malleable, impressionable, yada, yada, yada. So again, symbolic in Freemasonry, and it goes back, doesn't it, to to the Roman, I'm starting to lose it here, the Roman goddess Venus, aka Ishtar, aka Lucifer, the morning star. Now, if we go back to our coat of arms, I just thought it's interesting that the coat of arms of one of the alleged 13 families has the shells on it, and that they also have the goat. Goat, also used in Freemasonry, isn't it? I don't know why the goat represents Freemason. I've read various different theories. One I came up with myself is that its horns and its ears point like that, don't they, on a goat? If you get what I'm saying. Looks like a square and compass, but also looks like the Baphomet. Does it not? Yeah, stay tuned. We got plenty more of this to come. Now, let's have a look. What did it say? What did it get? AI came up with this. The Russell family is referenced in conspiracy theories like the bloodlines of the Illuminati, primarily associated with American lineage, particularly tied to prominent figures like William Huntington Russell, the co-founder of Skull and Bones at Yale. All roads lead to Rome on this, don't they? Everything is talk about, was it 3 degrees of separation? With historical ties to noble families in England, such as the Dukes of Bedford. So there was I driving my Renault 12 at 17, having just passed my driving test, parking up in Bedford Square with all the other boy racers, not realising that Bedford Square is the same chap whose brother, whoever it was, formed the Skull and Bones that fostered the Bush family criminal empire, etc., etc., etc. Yes, I just like a simple life, folks. I don't get all of this. What does make me chuckle, just bear with me, I've got a couple of people to thank in the chat. There we go. Clint, you absolute legend. Welcome to the channel as a new member. I really appreciate that. And I did see somebody else. Where are we? Stock Jock, thank you, very kind, for chipping in the super chat. I really appreciate that. Yes, this makes me chuckle. You know, the whole thing about hidden in plain sight. Well, this wasn't really even hidden, was it? The one-eyed symbolism, obviously, the great architect, the all-seeing eye, as emblematic on the back of the $1 bill. And what you've got here is a chap with Masonic symbology here, with the Freemasonic G on his apron, wearing the gear of slavery, aka factory worker. And what do they call him? They call him a minion. What does that tell you? Remember what the Austrian painter said. They're telling you what they're telling you in plain sight what these individuals do for them. Moving on. I mean, no offense, folks. I'm just saying it how it is. There's the shell again, the shell symbology in the Masonic Hall. I should have highlighted this, folks. The shell is symbolic of a lot of things. Someone take the time and put it in the chat, would you? In Roman mythology, shells were symbols of prosperity, regeneration, nurturing, and fertility. The shell is represented of Venus, the goddess of love and fertility. There you go. I think that's what I was getting at. And it won't surprise you to know that corporations have the same symbology. And you get all this Masonic symbology. So the shell, also this is is this Chrysler, the car firm? I can't remember which one, folks. It doesn't give me the name on these images if I put them up in Chrome. But if you look at that at first thought, it looks like a ram, doesn't it? But then if you ignore the red and just squint and focus on the silver, you get more like the Baphomet. This is what I was alluding to earlier. This is Tabasco, so the world's leading brand of hot sauce, isn't it? And what can we see in here that relates to Freemason? Well, first off, the square. In Masonry, you're said to be a square guy, aren't you? Then if you look in the middle, you've got the eye symbology. The pupil and the iris. And then you got the wings of Horus. Horus, the sun god, in the middle there. And how many people would completely, how many people does this totally pass by? BT got the colours of the light in one logo. In their Pan highly symbolic, isn't he? In mythology, but also someone pointed out quite cleverly there that you got the snake symbolism if you just focus on the red bit. Another company with the snake symbolism is NASA, isn't it? So NASA have combined the snake symbology into their logo. I was going to say that looks like a ring of Saturn, but that also looks like their idea of a craft orbiting their logo, doesn't it? And this is interesting. So if you look at the square and compass symbology in this picture, then let's look at the spot where Charlie Ward met his end, which a lot of people are alleging to be a Masonic conspiracy. Especially when they go putting their tag number 33 in their headlines. There's a spot there, or thereabouts, wasn't it? If you join the corners of this bizarre 1, 2, 3, 4 like a pentagonal type shape, if that's even a word, not only do you get your Baphomet, but look at the shape, you get the same shape. Or thereabouts. Make it out what you will, folks. We already talked about duality, didn't we? Black and white symbolism. Someone's pointed out the ring there. I'm not really too, And here we've got... Is that Nancy Pelosi? I don't watch telly, folks. I'm just guessing because I think I've seen her. It comes across social media now and again. But yeah, some black and white symbology. Wicked handshake they've got going there. And if you zoom in on the wallpaper, you can see that they've got crossed keys on the wallpaper. somebody put it in the comments below this video. What do you think the cross keys are symbolic of in this world? I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Right, so where's all this going? This is important, and thank you to everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat. I'll come on. In a bit. Yes, British gold. It is, and do you know how I know that? Kirk is Norsk, isn't it? It's the Norwegian, Scandinavian. But I used to live in Kirkella. Was the name of our street. So yes, folks, how much of that is conspiracy? Whatever. How much of it? All I'd say is there's definitely something going on, isn't there? There's definitely something going on. Sowing division, sowing an order out of chaos completely. And I'm not going to go to slides now. I'm just going to talk because it's like this. The Enlightenment came to me, 1998, 97, 98, probably 98. What's that, 26 years ago? I was at my absolute lowest from drug addiction. Freezing cold, starving, literally starving, hungry, hadn't eaten for days. And I won't bore you with the story. If you're really interested, you can read my book, obviously. There you go. Eat and Smoke. In fact, my recovery book is the one next to it, 40 Nights. 40 nights being allegory, isn't it? The number 40. It rained for 40 nights. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 nights. It's a reference, folks, to the time of your life where you're trying to get a grip of your thoughts. You're awakening. You're in the dark night of the soul. You haven't yet made that step into the light, but you know that you're meant for something better than this material bullshit. This is what I'm going to help you with. If you don't want to take down the New World Order, folks, maybe you're not a parent, so you couldn't give a shit about the kids. It's not your thing. Maybe you just want to totter off now and go and watch monkey riding on a pig. Wicked YouTube video, wicked. That's the time for you to depart. This is the proper stuff now. See, here's the thing. You got this amazing thing called scripture. You got to forget church now, folks. You got to forget religion. That's just, I told you, didn't I? Vatican. What the Vatican do? They're there to keep you in the dark. They have a pine cone in front of the Vatican for a reason and a sarcophagus, because they well understand that you are considered dead in ancient Egyptian, Babylonian mythology or theology. You're considered dead until you enlighten, until you spark your pineal gland, which, like I said, happened to me 27 years ago. And what happened is the people like myself who went through this experience and realized it's complete emancipation from bondage. This is you leaving the Egypt, crossing the emotional barrier. Red is emotion, C is water, elevated consciousness. So by overcoming your emotions, because they don't do you all that road rage, if you're not worked out, it doesn't do you any good. All that leaving angry comments on Facebook and YouTube, if you're not worked out, when you wake up the next day, you're still in just as much pain as you were the day before, right? That's because you haven't crossed the Red Sea. Red being control your emotion by getting over the five senses. You are divine manifestation of the all, the everything. I am not Chris and you are not Trevor. Thank fuck. Awful name, Trevor, isn't it? Bloody awful. Sorry, Trev, that was a joke. Trev, we're still allowed to joke, mate, yeah? Do you get me? When we stop joking, then we truly fucked. It's like when they stop the music, isn't it? That won't be a nice day. And it's not going to happen on our watch. But what am I saying? Yeah, you cross the emotional barrier, you get hold of your 5 senses, the water is elevated consciousness, and you enter the promised land where your pineal and your pituitary start working together as the endocrine glands that they are, and producing the happy chemicals referred to as milk and honey, serotonin and DMT. And then you end up, annoyingly like me, waking up every single day in paradise, running up the biggest hill in your city in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, where everyone else is so in bed because they're sleeping off their lives. And you do it at 56 years old. Not making this about me, folks. Remember, I don't exist, but I'm just using some examples of how this has helped me no end. Now, here's the thing. This is encoded. Scripture was written by people like me so that you, in your time of need, can open that book and decode what is written. And I'll give you an example, and then we're going to look at why you must. If you're watching this now and you are in any way unhappy with your lot, it's not going to end well for you. Matey, who left me the comment about being chased down the road by thugs calling him Packy, and then you said how you were waiting for him in a shop with a bottle. Not going to end well for you, mate. My way is better. I am promising you, because you got to do 3 simple things, and tomorrow morning all of that stops. 3 simple things. You put to bed all of that childhood trauma. You put together that, elusive dream of if you get the second Ferrari, that will make you happy. If you snort a little bit more coke, that's going to make you happy. And you put all that nonsense to bed, and you actually do things the proper way. And encoded into that book is the number 9 in various formats. So Jesus cast his net onto the right side of the boat, or he told his boys to. It's allegory for accessing the right hemisphere of your brain, which you do in a number of ways, one of which is meditation. It can be fasting, water fasting. It can be going out and doing sport. It can be through diet and clean thoughts, as it were. Good thinking, I should say. There's many ways to access the right hemisphere of your brain, the place where you wake up in paradise every day. And in scripture, it's allegory. So casting your net to the right hand side of the boat where you catch fish. Fish is allegory for wisdom. Is all allegory for enlightenment, folks. Adam and Eve went east of Eden. Jesus sits at the right. I'm doing that. It might look like the left on your screen. That's the right hand side of my head, right? Jesus sits at the right hand side of God. Now, how many fish did they catch when they cast their net? It's 153, wasn't it? Because in numerology, 1 had 5 is 6, and 6 had 3 is 9. So 9 is the number of human consciousness. But it works both ways, because you get people using their consciousness for good, and you get people using their consciousness to live a rubbish life or an unhealthy life, don't you? So in Bible, it symbolizes the 144,000. This is an example, who follow the Lamb of Sion. Sion is spiritual consciousness. Lamb is pineal gland. So those that have fired up their pineal gland shall be 144,000. 1 had 4 is 5. 5 had to 4 is 9. That is telling you enlightened consciousness. But if you're on, if you're not living in your best version of yourself, if you're nailing a bottle of wine every night, or you're supporting the porn industry, or you've got addiction problems, overeating, or you're being unkind to your children or your spouse or your girlfriend and you know you shouldn't be. Well, I mean, you shouldn't be. Or you got daddy issues that you've never worked through, yada, 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 or you're that twat that does the road rage, fucking honks your horn, you prick, right? You've got issues. You ain't the 144 going up to sit at the right-hand side of God, are you? At least not that guy in a Ford Sierra down at Derriford Roundabout, 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, yeah? If I see you... Sorry about that. Where was I? Yeah. So what if 144,000 symbolises enlightened consciousness, what are we saying for the polar opposite? Because it's as above, so below. We say 666, don't we? We call that the number of the devil. The devil just means temptation. Devil just means evil. Evil with a D. God is good with an extra O, or without the extra O, right? So devil isn't like this little geezer, forget all that. Not devil just means unenlightened thought, folks. When you are not living the best version of you, the devil will come in and he'll tell you to do stuff and it won't end well. For me, it was like, take some more drugs, that's going to fix things. So I took some more. And then he said, go on, take some more. And I took some more. And then I took more. And before I knew, I was actually chronically mentally unwell. Right? I let myself open to what they call in Star Wars the dark side, hadn't I? I hadn't got my hermetic seal, my Hermes Trismegistus. Right? I hadn't exercised in the morning, had me hot shower, cold shower. Got me alkaline diet going, meditated in the afternoon. I wasn't doing them things, and as a result, my stress was building up and I was looking for coping mechanisms, grabbing that extra, pack of Pringles or reaching for the beer or finding myself in the supermarket aisle looking at bottles of whiskey because I wasn't doing the things, folks. And I was a 666. Did it mean I had a microchip in my hand and in my head? Nothing to do with microchips, folks. You've got to raise your game above all that conspiracy bollocks, right? Your forehead is your pineal gland, isn't it? And your hand, in allegory, as you will find out if you buy this dictionary, there's a link below, folks, where you can get this on Amazon, and I may make a few pence on that sale. Or sign up for me newsletter below and I'll send you a copy of a free online one that I found, okay? But you'll know that hand means your actions. So your head, your thoughts, your pineal, your connection with the divine, and your hand, your actions. And if you have the mark of the beast, the 666, 6 add 6 is 12, 12 add 6 is 18, add the 1 and 8, it's also 9, because it's as above, so below. Consciousness is consciousness. It's just representative of duality. The polar opposite of those living in the light is those that are still in the dark. And yes, you can phase between the two. A drug relapse is a prime example of that, isn't it? And so here's the thing. You've got this amazing code in this incredible book that was put down by people who love you because they realize there's only the all, the everything, and that you are me and I am you. We are just the divine experiencing itself subjectively. And you are the next Luke Skywalker. You've got to grasp this. If you want to change your outcome. If you don't, fine, absolutely, This is the thing. Now, they put it in this book so that any time in your life you can access that code and you can ground yourself in the light where you realize you cannot die. The only thing that dies is matter. The energy, the spirit, the soul inside it, or that's held together by it, just goes back to the big experiment. And you all go around, And the show goes on, folks. This is what I'm saying. This is just temporary. Don't be upset when I go. Not that, I expect you would be, but I'm just saying. Say that to my loved ones. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm the divine, just experiencing itself in this silly little suit. Probably 80 years, maybe 60. I don't know how many I'll get. Literally irrelevant. If you're focusing on me, then that's an ego thing, isn't it? You're totally missing out on the bigger picture. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, if this code is that critically important, they put it in a book that's been handed down for thousands of years. And you can even read the same version of that book in, say, Buddhism, the Bhagavad Gita, or whatever the, Hinduism, whatever the script may be, the story of Buddha, Allah, it's all the same story, folks, all the same allegory. Then don't you think that they knew something that we didn't? And don't you think George Bush and Donald, and they none of them talking about it, are they? I'm not saying that they particularly have to be bad or what. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that no one's talking. Nobody gets this. Very few people. Oh, sorry, my studio's all mucking up. Very few people get this, folks, It doesn't have to be this way. And if we are going to forge forward with this great country called England, which was based on common law, that common law was based on our Bill of Rights, guess what the Bill of Rights is? Oh, yeah. Everything that I'm saying to you now, because it's based on God's word. It's literally what I'm saying to you is what is the foundation. Everyone is equal because we are all the same. That it is a crime to take another life or whatever it might be. Why? Because you're God and I'm God. Who wants to kill God? That's mad. That's why we don't blaspheme. Because if we say, oh, God. Sorry. Right, what have I done? I've forgotten that, no, I'm a manifestation of divine. It's inside me. I've just taken it and made it a false idol, haven't I? I'm worshipping the golden calf. So this stuff's really, really important to understand. And least not, if you have woe, if you're worried about this new world order or this immigration or whatever, would you not want to be not worried about it? Isn't that like a good deal? It doesn't mean you can't be concerned. Doesn't mean you can't take action against it like I do in every single podcast. But wouldn't it be good to be doing that as an enlightened individual who wasn't in trauma and wasn't feeling pain? And surely, if we're going to forge forward with our neutralization of these dark forces, don't we need to learn how they're controlling us through energy, vibration and frequency and keeping us in our lower chakras, our lower material self? With their mystery Babylon and their money magic and their Hollywood and their chicanery like we've seen with the whole Charlie thing. We don't give a shit about, we're just going to march in London again, are we? And what, wave a flag? Right, okay. How's that going to work? They control everything. They control the immigration. That's why the ship is permanently, the Border Force Patrol is permanently in harbour. I know, because my little boat, my rowing boat was moored up next to it for a year. And that ship never left harbour. These people are powerful, folks. They know what they're doing. They're the fallen angels practicing their mystery Babylon. And most people couldn't give a shit because they're too busy sharing conspiracy videos and trying to convince people that the earth's flat. It's, we've got to make choices, haven't we? We've got to make choices. And if everybody tomorrow woke up with not a care in the world, because they're spiritually enlightened in paradise, because they've stopped expending energy on material bullshit and focused on sending it to the pineal, as a result, they go east of Eden and they realise they're everything, that you've been here forever. You are literally the energy in this system. You've been here from time immemorial. You'll be here for time immemorial. You are the all, the everything. You are intrinsically, in whatever that word is, connected to everything that ever has been. That tree over there ain't separate from you. That's what you've been conditioned to think. When you breathe out, it breathes in. If it doesn't, you're dead. If you don't, it's dead. The whole system is connected forever to eternity. This is how it works. And isn't it worth understanding that? Because then you can learn how to control it, which you do by tuning into the divine. The divine comes to you through the pineal. That dictates your pituitary gland, your actions, because that controls your tree of life, your 12 cranial nerves. That controls your actions, doesn't it? Your nerves, your hearing, your sight, what you do, how you behave, how you react. Your actions dictate the energy that you put out into the system. And that energy dictates how other people feel around you. So would it not be a better place tomorrow if everyone started waking up and getting and walking the spiritual path and saying good morning to each other? May I help you with that? Stop with the nasty comments that you're leaving, your ego-fueled comments, because you have unhealed childhood trauma and you don't understand it. So you're projecting on it, you're projecting your pain onto other people, thinking that you're going to get a result. How's that going to end up? So this is why I talk about this stuff a lot, folks. This is what I say to the people who say, oh yeah, well, how's that new age stuff going to stop the immigrants? Well, you know, I can't 100% answer that. But what I could say is if everybody woke up tomorrow in paradise, would that not be like a good step? And if it's so critically, fundamentally important that wise men through the ages, the Magi, 3 wise men, the Magi, Persia from the east, astronomers, astrologers, astrotheologists, that they understood all of this. They understood the innermost workings of your brain at a time where we don't even, a time before we don't even understand it now. This was so important. They put it down in a secret code to be accessed. And what? You don't even think that's worth learning, but you're willing to pick up a flag and go marching through London. Just to see what I'm saying, you know. There's a lot we can do, you know. There's a lot we can do. Yes. Dun dun dun. So, can we have a thumbs up for Chris, please? Says Susie. Susie, thank you so much for supporting the channel, which is why you've got the little Viking symbol. Somebody said, why have you got Viking symbols? They're pagan or some shit I don't understand. No, it's just my name, isn't it? It's Thralls with the lower caste of the Viking culture, folks. We were the ones that they sent into scrap so that their nobility didn't have to get their hands dirty. At least that's what I tell my son. Yes, can we get some thumbs up? Can we get some subscribes? Let's go over to locals now, where I will take your questions and I will talk more about this and talk more about scripture. How can you help me? You can help by subscribing, please. You can help by supporting me for £1.99 a month. Is what I've just said, is that not worth, like, I would pay easily, I'd give someone £2,000 if they could explain to me what I've just explained. I'd give them. I've done that. I've had life coaches where I thought, oh, they know some stuff I don't. Turned out they knew less than me. I'd say. But is that not worth £1.99 a month, folks? If you can support me, that would be awesome. Locals, Patreon or YouTube. You get invites to my annual events for free. You get to attend our monthly Zoom meeting. It's all good stuff. Also, a couple of announcements. I've lost... Thank you to everyone that's chipped in a £5 for my Summit Everest in April to shine a light for struggling veterans. There's a link below. And let's just have a look at the comments, shall we? Here's Larry, big supporter of the channel. Thank you, Larry. I'll pick this, folks, because this is an interesting one. How do I become enlightened? Well, first of all, you've got to want to. It starts with a want. You've got to want to be the master of your game. That's what I decided to be, you know, and it's, I'm doing all right. I've still got a lot to work on. I managed to knock the alcohol on the head, the caffeine on the head, the meat on the head, the, you know, other stuff, shall we say. You got to want to, and it's a, you know, it's a consistent effort to keep that seal. But one way to if you haven't felt enlightenment before is the water fast. 5 days into a water fast, I guarantee you are going to be next to God, and you're just going to be in absolute bliss, and you'll be like, I get it. I get what that guy's talking about now. This is how we're supposed to feel. It's just unreal, folks, you know. And the reason why is food takes an awful lot of energy and it clogs us, you know. It leaves us heavy in the stomach, slow in our movement. It leaves us with brain fog. It's a lot of energy to digest food. Some say it takes 3/4 of the food you eat, the calories, to actually just digest it. In a water fast, you do away with that. Your body burns through your stomach contents, then it burns through your body's glucose, then it goes into ketosis, and you've got plenty of fat to last. My first water fast was 18 days. John St. Julian did 40 days. You know, 18 days, I can tell you, is pretty easy, folks. I got hungry towards the 15th day, I'd say. But what happens is all that energy, guess where it's going? Boom! Straight to your pineal gland, straight to your brain. For the first time ever, you're getting a full Monty, the full experience. So that's one way to do it. Dun, dun, dun. Yes. Oh, it's Larry again. Look. Ego is their main control. Of course it is. They're controlling you through your lower self. And it's so easy to see. How many people, when they ever consider changing their diet, no, it's beneath them. How dare you tell me what to eat? I'm going to just continue eating myself into, you know, chronic ill health by the time I'm 50, and you're not going to stop. You know, it's ego, isn't it? It's very hard to break through that. It's ego and programming. Extremely hard. So hard to explain to people how you are in charge of your well-being, not other people. If we could only grasp that, we wouldn't have gone through that massive scam, would we? We wouldn't have gone through that massive scam, you know. So yes, ego. It's the beast. It's the Ishtar. She's got a foot on the lion, isn't she? Daniel overcame the lion in the lion's den. Samson, he had to fight the lion, fight the ego. David had to overcome Goliath. Goliath is your ego, right? All good stuff. Right, let's go over the locals, folks. One last time, please like and subscribe. Absolutely wicked. I hope you've got something out of today. Just remember, you're perfect in every way. You ain't got to change to be like no one else. You ain't got to aspire to be like anyone or anyone else's lifestyle. You don't need big money or fast car or whatever it might be. You just got to have the ability to look inside and see that you're beautiful. That we all make mistakes. We've all done stupid stuff. Some of us, you know, really bad stuff. And it doesn't matter, because once you step into the light and you make that commitment to the divine, you're forgiven. And the energy you put out starts going up. So believe in yourself. You've got this, and we've got your back. Much love.
Morning, legends. I'm Chris Thrall. I'm a former Royal Marines commando. Upon leaving the forces, ended up chronically mentally unwell, self-medicating, undiagnosed trauma, and homeless on the streets of Hong Kong. It was the toughest battle I ever had to fight, but without the support of the medical community, without self-help groups, I learned the answers to rebuild my life, and go on to complete a series of extreme charity challenges to send a vital message out there for other veterans who are struggling. I've run the length of the United Kingdom, run across the Sahara Desert, rode across the Atlantic Ocean. Now I'm taking on my biggest challenge yet, climbing Mount Everest. If you can support me, friends, and continue to shine a light for our struggling veterans and let them know that it is life after PTSD, I'll put a link below. If you spare a fiver, that's absolutely fine. And let's give our veterans the respect that they deserve. Much love.